A lot of people lately have been looking for reliable information regarding the 1993 Waco siege and connected events. This has especially been the case over the past couple months with the increase of media productions on the subject, including several documentaries, new book releases, and most famously, the Paramount Network's new series called Waco. While there has certainly been some correct and important information come out through these productions, there are still so many questions left unanswered, and the big picture remains unexplained. In light of these facts, I'm glad to announce Waco Untold: How David Koresh Stole the Identity of the Branch Davidians is now available. The author of Waco Untold was a good friend of mine named Douglas Francis Mitchell, though I knew him as Doug. Doug became a Branch Davidian in the 1970s before David Koresh, then known as Vernon Howell, ever came in contact with the Branch movement. Doug never followed Koresh, but he knew him personally and even shared a two-bedroom house with him at Mount Carmel in 1983. Later in that same year, Vernon proclaimed that he had a message from God, but since it was rejected by Lois Roden, who was then the leader of the Branch Davidians, he left Mount Carmel and relocated to a place called Palestine, Texas, where he started a new group called the Davidian Branch Davidian Seventh-day Adventists.
Davidian Branch Davidian Seventh-day Adventist, Study Tape 1.
For the next few years, Koresh ran his organization in opposition to the Branch Davidians and their leader. No one involved with the Branch Davidia at the time had any confusion over the fact that Koresh and his group were separate from the Branch Davidians. They were clearly two different groups with different locations, different names, and different leaders who were opposed to one another.
Sister Roden says that she doesn't want anyone to think bad about me. If it had not been for her rebellion in the first place, no one would have had a biased opinion about me. Know what I'm saying? No one would have thought anything about me. Sister Roden wants everyone to be established with her message.
It was not until 1987, after Lois Roden had died, that Vernon Howell deceitfully and unlawfully claimed to be the president of the Branch Davidian Seventh-day Adventists in order to gain control over Mount Carmel. Even then, though, he did not call himself or his followers Branch Davidians. He even dropped his Davidian Branch Davidian name, and for the last few years his followers had no official name, though they often thought of themselves as students of the Seven Seals.
I always consider myself a student of the Seven Seals. Branch Davidian is something that I really heard on February 28th when the ATF raided.
There is a lot more to this story, and there is a lot to be said concerning its importance and its consequences. This is why Doug wrote Waco Untold. It is his testimony regarding the events at Waco, regarding David Koresh and the Branch Davidians. Not only does he give his own testimony, though, he also carefully documents the facts so that no one has to depend on his word or remain in ignorance. So if you want to understand what really happened at Waco, how David Koresh became who he was, and why it matters, I highly recommend for you to get the book Waco Untold. It is now available on Amazon.com, and it's on sale for 20% off until midnight Pacific Standard Time on March 6th. If you want more information on this subject, please check out two of our other videos. The first is called Branch Davidian Identity Theft, a Continuing Tragedy, in which I document some of the evidence showing that David Koresh did indeed steal the identity of the Branch Davidians. The second is an NPR interview with Doug Mitchell in which he explains the basics of the warfare by Vernon Howell, aka David Koresh, and others against the Branch Davidian Seventh-day Adventists.